Hey, welcome to my Travel Wins podcast. Today I'm lucky to have Hernan Sias. Did I say that right, Hernan?
You did.
There you go. Hernan, how are you doing today, buddy?
Doing well. Another beautiful day in San Diego. Can't complain.
I appreciate you coming on the show with me. It's not too often I get good business people and a podcaster to want to come on my show, so I appreciate it.
I love doing these things. I'm actually in the process of doing a podcast tour. The goal is 50 shows in June. And I mean, we record every single day. We're one of those crazy podcasters, and I love doing it. It's super fun. I get to meet new and exciting people just like yourself.
Well, hold on. What's the name of your podcast?
Business Bros.
Oh, come on. What's the name of your podcast?
Business Bros.
There you go. Got to get it out there, man.
You do. You know, it's funny. A little quick story about that. I dragged my brother into podcasting, so he's the other business bro, and he wasn't really gung ho at the beginning. So in order to get him to record, I had to get him a 12-pack of Bud Light, and so we sat down and we're recording 3 or 4 episodes to get this whole thing started. And about episode number 4, so I'm like, okay, guys, welcome to another episode of, and he's like, Business Bros! And it kind of just stuck, and we've been saying it ever since.
So he's on board now, though, right?
Oh, he's 100% on board. Podcasting has changed our lives. I mean, like I said, it's if you're in business, if you're in sales, you have to do a lot of prospecting, and prospecting just sucks. It sucks because you have to filter through the nose. But what I found was with podcasting, if I'm asking somebody to be a guest on my show, I get 9 times out of 10 that they say yes. They won't give me 5 minutes of a sales call, but they'll give me 45 minutes of their time on the podcast.
Yep.
So it has completely changed the way I do business and the way I network with people and build relationships. It's a beautiful thing.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I don't do this for my day job. You know, and the podcast was totally out of left field. I don't bring it up too much on my actual shows, but yet I'm just meeting and networking with people that otherwise I would never have talked to. I think it's a great platform.
It's a tremendous platform. And here's the thing about it is it's almost like you get to interview the clients that you're prospectively working with. So you give them 45 minutes, they sit down, they talk with you on the show, you have a great conversation, or you don't. And at the end, you get to decide if you want to continue to nurture that relationship.
Yeah.
You know, and it's great. And once you do decide you want to work with them, you've already established a relationship where you came in and brought them value. That's a win.
Well, like you said, like I'm not buying real estate in San Diego anytime soon. But of all the people I talk to, meet, and do all the things I do, now I know a real estate agent in San Diego. So. Exactly.
That's exactly the whole reason for podcasting, right? It's to get in front of people and tell them what it is you do. And the cool thing is when it's your show, you can talk about what you want. So you want to talk about traveling. You want to talk about insurance. You want to talk about weird things you saw on the freeway. It doesn't matter what it is. It's your show. And people just love to interact with other people. And it's been proven more so today after COVID that we need that personal interaction. The virtual is cool and it will suffice, but nothing is better than that face-to-face, person-to-person handshake.
You know, and I've had this talk with a few people that have asked me about podcasting, and I go, just make sure you pick something you want to actually talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like...
Because it's work.
Yeah, it's like...
Regardless of whether you love the topic or not love the topic, after you record, you still have to do a little bit of editing, add the intro, post it where you need to post. It's not like it's, one and done and it's over with. It takes time, it takes effort. So if you don't like it, you're going to find reasons why you don't want to do it. But if you do love it, you're going to continue to do it because you can't wait to get to the next one.
Well, and that's the one thing I heard too is like they call it pod fade. And it's where people fade out. They start up a podcast and think, I'm going to talk. And 7 episodes is the average.
Yeah. So when people ask me, because my biggest thing is you need to put content out there. If you're in business and you have any type of need to have exposure, content is where it's at. So you have to have content out there. So people are like, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. Well, there's like 50 million YouTube channels that you got to compete with. Well, I'm going to write a blog. Well, there's 500 million blogs that you're going to compete with. I suggest a podcast. There's less than 1 million podcasts out there, and half of them have 14 episodes or less.
Yeah.
Half of them. And you want to know what the main reason is why they quit?
They run out of things to talk about?
Nobody's listening. So here's the weirdest thing about podcasting. At the beginning, you suck because you don't know how to hold a conversation. You don't know how to keep energy in your voice. You have a lot of filler words in between. You're just not very good when you start. And it's the same thing with a YouTube channel. It doesn't matter what it is. When you start something, you're not very good at it. And so there's not very many people listening to you at first. But in your mind, you think, like anything else, I have a professional license. The world is going to come to me now and solicit my services. I'm going to have a podcast. The world is going to come listen to me now because I have purchased this mic and I'm putting a message out there. It's just not how it works.
Yeah.
I mean, we spent like 50 episodes and the only person who listened was my mom. Right. But in those first 50 episodes, I got better and better and better.
Yeah.
I improved as a speaker. I improved in my interview skills. And by the time people are listening now, where we're at 470 episodes, all of a sudden it's a big difference, right? And then if I continue someday in the future, maybe it's like, where did this celebrity come from? He came out of nowhere. Well, you didn't see the 5, 6, 7, 10 years, whatever it took for me to get to that point. Yes. But it's still that consistent hard work.
I still have not gone back and listened to my first episode. I'm like,
I did that earlier during COVID. I was like, I wonder, I talk about it a lot. I'm like, I'm gonna go back and listen to it. It's not very good.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not very good.
So it's like, I just passed 100 episodes. So you've got
congratulations.
400 what now?
I think today we're recording 475.
Yeah. So
but it just takes, it's that thing. You're getting better and better and better. I mean, think about it. At the very beginning, you were so concerned about what you were going to see on the mic that you even completely forgot about how do I plug in the mic? How do I make sure it's recording? And did I just record this entire podcast and not turn the button on? Like, I've done that.
I've done it too.
It happens. So, those are the things that just with practice, you develop those systems, you put those checks and balances in place, and you get better. You're just going to get better. But it takes work. Anything that we do in life requires us to take that effort, take that step consistently on a regular basis, and you'll see improvement.
And it's so weird. If you would go back 5 years ago with your career, would you have ever thought, oh, I'm going to have a podcast and me and my brother are going to talk every day? And I mean, it was just totally not even a thought for me, at least.
Well, so here is something that's kind of funny. In 2008, I found like 3 videos of me talking about personal finance on YouTube. And for whatever reason, I didn't continue. And I wonder now what my life would have been like if I would have stuck to it then, where I would have been today. Because I've been at it for almost 2 years now on the podcast route, and it's changed my life dramatically in 2 years. But to be fair, in 2008, the technology wasn't nowhere near where it is today. So it took a lot more effort to create content and put it out there. But the practice of it would have just made you so phenomenal today. The traffic, the competition back then would have been way smaller than what it is today.
You'd be like Joe Rogan signing $100 million contracts.
With Spotify, exactly. But again, that's hindsight, right? We can't look back and say, I wish I could have, would have, should have. What you can do is start doing it today. Like, make a choice and decide, all right, I'm going to start doing something about my life. I'm going to start with, letting people know what it is I do, and I'm going to go from there. I'm going to make a point to do this every single day. I'm Mexican. I have a lot of family members in my family. So when we have a family function, there's all kinds of aunts and uncles and cousins and all these people. Even in my immediate family, I don't know what everyone does for a living.
Yeah.
I have a general idea, but I don't know. What does that mean? That means that person, whenever they want work, they're out there soliciting their butt off to try to get work, when their immediate family, who could probably send them work, doesn't know about what it is they do. And we use that same practice in our business. We assume people know what it is we do, but we're not actively telling people, hey, here's a little bit of value tip, right? Here's how you do a home inspection, or here's the next insurance tip, or here's the next clothing tip. Like, if we're constantly giving people advice about what it is they do, guess what's going to happen? They're going to remember you, and they're going to come back to you with not only business, but with referral business.
I think referrals going to be is the key, especially in real estate, but in most businesses, referrals huge.
Oh, 100%. If you ever ask anybody who's been in the sales business for more than 10 years, they're going to tell you, and you ask them where their business comes from, most likely they're going to tell you referral business. That's the goal of every salesperson, is to have a business that's fully functional and running on referral-based business. The problem is when you first get started and you look at that guy, it looks like that guy's not doing anything. It looks like all he's doing is having fun with his friends. What you didn't see was all the work he put into establishing that relationship, nurturing those relationships. And guess what? Because he spent all that time doing that, the people he's having fun with are his friends. They are the people who he worked really hard with, and those are the people who are continuously sending them business. And that's how it works. But it takes that effort to have that friendship, to do those types of things, to even meet the people that are going to be in a position where they can send you business.
Totally. Dude, we're on the same page.
It's a lot. It's living through experience, right? Like we've made our own mistakes.
It's so interesting because, like, I still feel like a complete rookie. I mean, I'm still figuring things out. I'm still going, oh, I should work on that. Maybe I'll do that, change it. And then yet I'm getting people calling me now, asking me for, hey, you've got a podcast and it's successful. And I'm like, really? No, not really. But, you look at Joe Rogan numbers or Lewis Howes or any of the guys that have 1 million downloads a month and this and that, and you're like, not even close. But you can't get them on the phone, so.
Right. But perception is everything, right?
Yeah.
Like what I tell people, I'm like, look, your podcast, you get a 30-minute segment, whether it's only audio or you add the video component in. You have this 30-minute long-form piece of content, and if you can chop it up, like, think of Benihana's, right? You go to Benihana's and the chef's right there chopping up all your rice and everything. That's what you're doing with your long form content. You're creating small pieces, small little bite-sized pieces, and you can take those and put them on your social media feed. And what are you doing? You're sprinkling in front of the people who see you most often, and you're showing them what it is you do. And so it's not that they know that you only get 1,000 downloads a month or 3,000 downloads a month or 10,000, whatever. They don't know those metrics. All they know is that you got a mic and people see you all the time. You must be famous.
Hey, have you had this happen yet? Have you had this happen yet? So I'm 2 years with 100 episodes in. I think you're like you'll be 110. But I just had a buddy who I've known for 10 years, and we're Facebook friends. And I put all my posts on Facebook and all that. He sends me a DM like 2 weeks ago. You have a podcast? I'm like, yeah, dude.
You're almost 2 years late, but I've had it for a while though.
Have you not seen any of my posts? Because here I am thinking I'm posting too much about it, and then here's a guy we're friends, and he's like, I didn't know he had a podcast. That's cool. I have to check him out.
And here's the thing: what you just said was vital right there. Like, you feel like you're posting too much, right? And that's the problem that we as salespeople also have. We feel like we're following up too much when really we're not following up nearly enough, and the money is in the follow-up. So we talked about the beauty of having that podcast allows you to generate that referral. Oh, no, sorry. Huh. My phone rang and it showed your caller ID. I was like, did I lose you? Oh, no.
No, I'm here, bro.
So we again we're able to generate that lead, but where we fall short is in the follow-up. We don't follow up enough. And us posting content on a regular basis, consistently putting out our message, people don't always see it. Even though we think they see it all the time because we're posting it all the time, they don't see us all the time. And most times they're ignoring us until something catches their eye. And it's like anything else. I tell people all the time, don't feel like you're repeating yourself. You're repeating yourself to yourself, but the person who's listening to you may not be in a position where they're ready to accept your message yet. Something's going to happen in their life, and when that happens, then they'll be ready to accept your message. And then they're going to be like, oh my gosh, you're saying exactly what I need to hear. But it doesn't happen all at once.
No.
I'll share an experience with you. You tell me if this has happened. So we do the business, And my brother was walking in Balboa Park the other day, and he was walking his dog, and then he said these girls run up to him, and they're like, "Hey, are you Hernan's brother?" And they're like, "Yeah." And they go, "Business, bro," and keep running.
How much did you pay him to do that to him?
Right? That's what I said. I was like, that is so freaking awesome. You got hustled, bro. You got hustled. But, and stuff like that, it's really cool because my name, Hernan, is not the easiest name to say. But we'll go to different events, and I'm always wearing a Business Bro shirt. And so when people see the logo, that's what they shout out. It gives them that opportunity to be a little goofy, a little loud, like, "Oh, what's up, Business Bros?" And it becomes like a little culture. And so you either know about the culture or you don't. And when you're in a group setting and there's a few who know, it's cool. It's really cool because others want to know. Exactly. I want to be part of that crowd. Even if it's a goofy little shout, like at least they know what it is.
Well, that's why I made you do it at the beginning of the show.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely, bro. How much has the podcast changed your day job, your real estate?
So it actually changes dramatically. I stopped selling real estate direct, I didn't represent clients for about a year and a half now.
Okay.
And one of the reasons why I did it was because my wife was like, "I'd like to have you home on the weekends and in the evenings."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right," but I maintained my license, and so as I put more and more episodes out, as I put content out, people would come to me and say, "Hey, I need help buying a house, or I need help selling my house. Can you help me?" I'm like, "Absolutely. Let me bring in my team member," and I bring in a buyer's agent or I bring in a seller's agent, and they would handle all the transaction and then cut me a referral check. So it allowed me to continue to utilize my network, but at the same time get paid for those referrals that I'm bringing in. So we really preach highly a dual licensing. So I have an insurance agency. So I always tell people, are you in taxes? You need an insurance license because it's another alternative product that you can offer your existing clientele. You're in real estate, you also need an insurance license. And maybe you don't want to do the insurance business. That's okay. If you hold the license, you can send the business our way. We'll do all the work for you and cut you a check. Because that's what it's about, right? It's about finding that additional revenue source. Because if you're only dependent on one income stream and that income stream disappears, you're in some deep doo-doo, right? You got to figure something out and figure it out fast. But if you have multiple income streams and you lose one, it doesn't hurt as bad.
Well, I think that's, we're coming through the lockdown period, and I think a lot of people are going to start. And I've told people, I'm like, I'm not making any money right now on my podcast, but I know the potential's there, and I'm not making any money because I haven't wanted to. I think I told my daughters to have multiple things going on, because I think working at Ford or General Motors and working there for 25 or 30 years and then retiring with the pensions, those days are pretty much gone.
Yeah, they don't exist as much anymore, and that's not 100% necessarily true. You can do a 20-year stint in the military. You can do 20 or 30 years as a teacher, and there are pensions that are in place there. They're just not the same. The cost of living just goes so dramatically high. The cost of medical insurance is so high that even at the end of your 20, 30 years, you do have a pension, and it does cover a lot of your expenses. But there's that gap between your lifestyle and what your pension will pay. And filling in that gap often means they go back to work and find another job. So, it does, the pension does exist. That retirement option does exist, just not the same as it did, 20, 30 years ago.
And that's why the other thing I tell people is I've met people that make a pretty decent money at being a social media influencer.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like a 20-year-old making $100,000 a year off his Instagram account, who has never applied for a job. And then I have other friends that do, a website blog, and she makes a good income, and it's her side business.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
And this is a little side hustle that you have. So recently, I'd say towards the end of February, I made the conscious effort to turn my podcast and treat it like a business. Prior to that, it was fun. It's been just a hobby that I do on the side. And now we've turned it into a business. And the scary thing is, building a business sucks. It's not really the funnest thing in the world. It gets glamorized, right? If it's successful, everybody's like, oh yeah, he's a business owner, entrepreneur. But the day to day is not fun. It's putting out fires and dealing with problems, and it's a lot of time and effort that goes into it. But it kept coming back to the whole thing of the show's the Business Bros, and if it's not a business, I feel like I'm lying to myself. So we turned into a little bit more of a generating thing, an income generation thing, and I wrote a book called The Power of Podcast. I'm giving it away, so if any of your listeners want to start a podcast and need all the steps from podcast development through podcast promotion, launch and visibility, all the way through monetization, I'm giving away the book. It's at businessbros.biz/free pop, free power of podcasting, so free pop. And go ahead and get the copy, use it, start developing your podcast, start putting your content out there, be one of those people that's taking the steps forward and taking that initiative. I promise you it will change your life. Any podcaster I've ever talked to, anybody who's done it will contest to that. They'll tell you in their own words how it's changed their own life. Right, Pete?
I totally agree. I mean, have you considered, because one thing I've been thinking about, and it'd be easier for my content maybe, is writing a book. And you're writing, you just wrote a book about podcasting, but I mean, you could actually have chapters of, 1031 exchanges and insurance and, and then you're a published author as well.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that. 475 episodes in, we've had over 300 guest interviews. Some of them are already authors. Some of them have, multi-million-dollar businesses, hundreds of millions of dollars in sales a year. I mean, it's crazy. And I've been considering doing that side of it, is taking the content that we've created and creating a book around different strategies with people with similar like minds. But like anything else, that is an undertaking. Right?
No, it's easy.
Once you decide to go full force, now you got to really schedule out your day to make sure that you're taking all the steps necessary to execute that plan. Right. And so that's always the tedious, most difficult part of anything you do, is going to be taking those necessary steps. I don't care if it's, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Well, cool. You got to cut out the soda. You got to start drinking the water. You got to get off the couch. You got to start moving those feet. Like, there's all these different things that you have to do. And if you skip, you're holding yourself back from achieving that goal. And it's the same thing with if I decide to do that type of book, you can't skip. You got to put it in your calendar, because if it's not in your calendar, it doesn't exist.
Oh, see, why'd you got to say that out loud, man? Because for me, like, I've interviewed Olympic athletes, NBA athletes, NFL guys, musicians, business people. So I was thinking, like, I could chapter it up or just do separate books on different areas. Like you said, a little small ebook or something like that. Yeah,
and it's knowledge. My only thing is, so I wrote the book, and I've been selling it for $7. But I always give away sections of it. So it's 4 sections. I'm always giving away sections of it. And my wife gets on my case. She's like, why do you keep giving it away? I'm like, because we live in the information age. Honestly, everything I've learned was a Google search away. Like, I can find the information. So it's not like I'm giving you something super proprietary that nobody else knows. I just put it in a format that worked for me. Right. And so, so let me share with as many people as possible. If I share with everybody and I do change your life and I do give you the opportunity to start your own podcast, guess what? When you want to add video or you want to add some editing, who are you going to ask help from? You're going to reach out to me because I helped you get there. And to me, that's more valuable, is being that person that provided the value. Like, why am I doing it? Because when I die, I want 10,000 people at my funeral because I've influenced them in a positive way somehow throughout their life. And if I could do that, that's a happy life.
I know who you listen to on a regular basis.
Who do I listen to?
Gary V.
Mm-hmm. So Gary's one of the reasons why I even started the podcast in the first place.
He's the exact reason I started it. And I could tell you, I used to listen to him a lot more than I do now because I'm busy, but I still remember listening. I had to be a video blog, and he said, Anchor. Use Anchor. You can start a podcast tomorrow, and I don't care if you're 50 or 40 or, why you let all the millennials and 20-year-olds do it? You got all that experience. Why don't you share it with people? And I went, let me check it out. And that's why I said at the beginning, think about what you want to talk about. Because I had a buddy who started a podcast on Anchor because of Gary, who's in London. And he's like, oh, you should start an MMA podcast. And I'm like, yeah, I like MMA, but I don't know if I want to talk about it on a weekly basis. And so I started thinking about, what do I do for a living? And then most of the people I talked to at the time, especially at the time, were people I met out on the road. So they also travel. So I was like, all right, that's literally why I got started. So when you were talking about the things you talk about, I'm like, all right, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I was actually getting my certification to be a real estate coach, and my mentor has a daily podcast, and he was saying, you need to start a podcast. You need to start a podcast. And then once I decided I was thinking about doing it, then I got introduced to Gary Vee, and I'm hearing Gary Vee say the same thing. If you're in business, you need to have a podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, look, these people are saying it. I look up to people like this. Okay, cool, let's do it. So I jumped into doing a podcast. And I went the more expensive route because I didn't hear the whole Anchor FM thing until afterwards. I ended up building. I paid a developer to build my whole website so I can just upload all my stuff and then send out my RSS feed. I did it the long way. But again, it's what you don't know until you're in it, and you're like, oh, I could have gone that route. That would have been way cheaper. You literally can start your podcast for $0.
Yeah, I did. I mean, everyone's like, "Oh, how'd you get all these people on the?" I mean, I literally, I texted my daughter and said, "Here's what I want to do. Find the programs for me to do it." It's like she's in her 20s and she's a social media person, so she literally found the program that I downloaded from my phone that records phone calls. I used my earbuds that I got with my iPhone to record, which I figured I had to tape to my face so it wouldn't swing around. And and then I would just call people. And now, now I have a Rode podcaster. I got a real mic and doing all that. But I started on the complete cheap for free. I didn't spend any money on it. And you
can.
Yeah.
And as you and I think you should actually start that way. Because it'd be one thing if you knew exactly what you were going to do. But let's say, for example, you buy all the gear, you get everything squared away, and you realize it's not for you. Well, that was an expensive not for you when you could have tried it for free. But if it is you now, and you do well at it, and you start to build an audience, now it's like, check it out, guys. We're going to get new equipment. You're going to be in for a drastic change in your sound. Yeah. And you can build your way up to it, and it's really cool to take your audience on that ride.
Well, and at least in my household, it was easier to tell my wife, "Hey, I'm doing this thing, but it's not costing us anything." And then a year and a half later, I'm still doing it. I'm still getting more and more people. So when I go out and spend a little bit of money on a mic and a mixing board and all that, it makes sense because it's not a hobby. I'm
justified.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I'm the same way. I heard a saying the other day said, "Happy wife, happy life" was traditionally what we heard, but it's really happy spouse, happy house, right? Because it's got to work both ways. She's got to keep you happy just as much as you got to keep her happy. So I dug that one. When I told her that one, I go, "Babe, it's happy spouse, happy house." She looked at me like, "Yeah, you keep telling yourself that, buddy."
Yeah, exactly. No comment. She's pretty close by. So
exactly.
The shutdowns. I've been home for 3 months now, almost, and it's the longest time I've spent at home in 10 years because I'm always traveling for my work. So, how do you think the podcasting technology will affect travel? Because I know, like you travel a little bit. Mm-hmm. How do you think that's going to change once we come out of this? Because, you already talked about going virtual.
Yeah, well, we were forced to go virtual prior to COVID. We did all our interviews in person. So literally, people would come over and we'd have I use this thing called Sling Studio. So we turn everybody's cell phones into our video cameras, and we had, tripods, and we just, record, and boom, we're ready to go. And so technology-wise, we were set up already to, we'll do split screen, we'll do banners and logos on the screen, all that stuff. We were already doing that and streaming to Facebook. And once COVID hit, we couldn't have people interview in person anymore, so we had to shift over. And we started off with Zoom, but then we switched over to StreamYard, and StreamYard has been amazing. I literally now, every show gets streamed to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, and we're waiting for approval because LinkedIn requires this additional approval. But then we can stream to LinkedIn too, all at the same time. And it's video platform. Literally at the push of a button, I play my intro. At the push of a button, we drop little movie lines because we love watching movies. So my brother and I, in our conversations, like if you hear us talk, at the end, we'll finish each other's sentences with some sort of weird movie line or some sort of plug. So we just kind of started doing the same thing on the show. We just have movie clips and we drop them in wherever we want. And then at the end of the show, we drop the outro. I hit end broadcast, and the show is completely edited. That's it. It has everything it needs. So I download the MP3, I upload it, and it's a done deal. There's nothing to it. It dramatically decreased the amount of time that I have to do things in post edit, and it made it so much easier. I don't know if I'm going to go back to live. I think I like the way the remote works. So, it was something we were forced into. There's things in business that we had to be forced into, but maybe it's for the better. Maybe it's this new normal.
It's interesting because I totally agree with you. I think if you get to Joe Rogan's, point in life, then people will drive and fly to go see you because they're going to want that exposure for whatever they're promoting. And he's in Los Angeles, so he's got people come to LA for other things, so they can tag on to that. And Lewis Howes is the same way. Lewis is in West LA, but
and you can't complain about going to LA, or if you're coming from other parts of the country, going to LA or going to San Diego. I mean, coming to the California coast is a dream.
Well, the thing I know that Lewis does, people will come out to do an opening or do something, and then they'll also schedule in, an hour to be on his show or whatever.
Yeah. And that's, again, where did these guys come from? They came from consistency of doing their show and getting in front of people and doing their thing, speaking their truth. And that's it. That's it. You never know who you're going to connect with. Your tribe will develop over time.
You hope.
You're not on this world by yourself. There are other people like you, believe it or not.
I went to my first podcast conference in February in downtown LA.
The podcast movement?
Yeah.
How did that go? I didn't know about it till after, and I planned on going to this one that was supposed to happen here. Was it this month? I think it was, or last month
in Austin.
But they pushed it. Yeah, they pushed it to October.
Yeah, and it was my first time ever being around podcasters. Like this was just something I did, in my house. It wasn't, something. It was just very interesting to go and be around other people, and you get just like life. You get people that have podcasts that only talk to themselves and just they ramble on, and then you have interview shows and you have guest shows, and it was very interesting.
You get any good ideas?
I got several, and the thing for me, to be honest with you, is because for me, I don't have a brother to kick ideas off. I don't have so I'm literally just doing this thing in the corner of my house. So to go there and go, and then people are like, so who have you interviewed? And I tell them, like, how'd you get all those people? And I'm like, I don't know, I just asked.
Funny how that works, huh?
well, like one guy, I'm sitting down. One guy's given, because it was kind of cool how they set it up. And if you want to be a speaker at one of them, you just have to sign up to be a speaker. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I applied.
Because one guy, I sat down because he was like, how to get guests for your podcast show. I'm like, oh, that's what I want. So I go there, and he's had 40 guests on. or 45. And I'm like, well, I'm at 100.
I think I know a little more than you.
Well,
okay,
yeah,
tell me what you know.
But yeah, it's like all of a sudden I'm like, hold on, so maybe I'm doing better than I thought. Maybe I'm not just some guy sitting in the corner of his house. So it was interesting to see that side of it too, because it's such a new business.
It totally is. It totally is. My backdrop, for example, it's funny when people would show up and literally it's an office in my house, right? You have to walk through my master bathroom to get to my podcast studio. And the wall's not very big. It's just the wall that everybody sees on our show. They see it often. Yeah. And so when people show up, they're like, oh, this is it, huh? This is what it looks like. To me, I'm like, yeah, this is the office space. But to them, it's an image that they see and they portray it differently. You know what I mean? Like how people see you and how people perceive your success in your podcast is different from how you see it.
Completely. Have you ever watched Lewis Howes' podcast?
I haven't watched. I've only listened.
Because I was a guest on his show. I won a prize. This was like 6 months after starting podcasting. He did a thing where he was going to invite five guest listeners from around the world to go be a guest on his show. And I signed up, and I was the 5th guest. So, I mean, one lady came from Dubai, so he really flew people around. But obviously, I just drove up because he was 20 miles away from me. But it was so surreal to go into his studio. His studio was a bedroom that he converted to be, and it's just a studio now. But like you said, like you were just talking about, like on TV, you're like, oh, okay. And then when you're there, you're like, oh, okay, that was those shelves. That was the closet. Literally, he took off the doors and made bookshelves out of it.
You feel a little deflated, huh?
It gave me hope.
Well, yeah. On the one hand, you're like, I thought it was crazier than this. On the other hand, you're like, I could do that.
I could do that.
I could do that.
That's exactly what I thought. I'm like, I could do that. He literally had somebody come in and paint the wall, which so it was hand painted and all that, and he added the shelves and did this and that. It was literally not even like the master bedroom. It was just a regular bedroom, and he's getting.
That's fine.
I mean, look at the people he's had in that chair, including Gary Vee.
It's amazing. Like it's really humbling to know that. Again, you don't need a lot to make it. The thing that stopped us in the past from being able to do anything like this, whether you were in radio and you were an artist, where you want to make movies, whatever it was always distribution. Right? We had to go through specific distribution chains to get our message out. But today, distribution is the least of our worries. So now it comes down to, I think, honestly, is consistency, because your skill will elevate. Like, I do agree that there are a lot of people that don't have any skill. It's probably not for them. But there are a lot of people who, if you just continued to do it, you would get better and you would get really good and people would enjoy listening to your show. I just honestly believe that consistency and practice will get you there.
Have you ever read a book called Outliers?
Yes, Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
I love that book. The 10,000 hours, right?
Yeah, I mean that's 10,000 of anything. It's like,
anything.
You gotta, it's the same way here. It's like I said, I literally have not listened to my first episode, and he's a friend of mine. Like I want him on again, but I haven't gone back because I don't want to. Maybe it'll be good to know where I'm coming from, but I'm good. I know I was bad.
Your first episode was with Malcolm Gladwell?
No, my first episode was with a buddy of mine.
Oh, I was like, that was a pretty damn good
gosh. Well, my first episode was Hunter Carey's a 2-time world champ steer wrestler. So my first guest was a world champion, but I've also known him for a decade because of my day job and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So my first episode was, I was going to try and do it through Anchor. I was having problems because I was giving him an access code, which I didn't know how to not do that at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had problem connecting, so it wasn't working, and I'm stressed, And then so we set it up for another day, but he was at a rodeo at a different part in Texas, and the reception was real bad, so we were recording, and it cut out like 3 times. And I said, well, when are you going to be home? And he said, I'll be home next week. I said, let's do it next week, when you're on a landline. And then we recorded it again. But so basically, I had to do my first episode 3 times. And how do you sound fresh? And, after doing it, hi, welcome to today. My guest is Hunter Cure. It's like, and today my guest is Hunter Cure. And today my guest is Hunter Cure. It's like,
Yeah, but only, again, it's in our own heads, right?
Yeah,
because the listener only heard it the one time. They don't know how many takes it took you to do that.
They have no idea.
They just know the one that they actually hear.
And it's one of my most listened to episodes because it's the first one, so it came up first on all of my pages.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, jeez.
That's what I'm known for.
Yeah, exactly. Great.
Hey, you know what though? That's the starting benchmark, right? You've only gotten better from there.
I guarantee it.
So if anybody's listening, let them. If anybody listened to that first one and is still listening today, ask them for that feedback. Did I get better? Has this improved? Am I doing something that you would like to hear, or am I doing something you want me to just like cut out that you don't want me to hear, that you don't want to hear anymore?
Hernan, I'm gonna have to come up with travel wins. I'll have to come up with something.
Travel wins.
I'll get you to do it, and that'll be my intro and my outro.
There you go.
I'll hit the button. It'll be travel wins.
It should be something that you can put on a T-shirt, and that you can you hear people shout out at the airport. Because I can imagine you're walking by, they're like travel wins, just pointing you out, and you're walking with your suitcase.
My wife would be freaked out.
They kind of like it though. I think like my wife digs it. She does it. She says, if you ever get famous where they're interrupting us during meals, I'll get upset. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if you would. I think you'd be like impressed actually. He's like, whoa, somebody listened to you.
It's funny. I'm impressed with everybody that I get on my show. Literally. I've had a few that were people I knew and grew up with. Kevin Sorbo, who played Hercules.
You grew up with Kevin Sorbo?
No, but I mean, I grew up watching him, right?
Yeah.
So when I had him on my show and I'm listening to him on my phone, I'm like, oh my God. In the back of my head, I'm like, that's Kevin Sorbo talking to me right now.
That's so bizarre, huh?
I had Steve Stevens, who was the guitarist for Billy Idol. And
wow.
And so, and everyone's like, how'd you get Steve Stevens? Like, he said yes.
Yes. It's funny. So I'm wondering, what did you learn from that guy that had 40 guests on his show of how to get guests on your own show?
I learned that I'm better at it than I thought I was.
So the strategy, if I'm hearing you correctly, is ask. They might say yes.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've asked Lady Gaga, Madonna, Barack. I realize they're not going to say yes. Especially if I don't ask.
Yeah, but what if they did?
And well, dude, that's literally
right. That's what you need to tell yourself. What if they do?
One of the first guests I ever had, I think it was, God, I have to look it up, number 14 or 15. I did a post with Cowboy Troy, which was my second post, who's an African-American country singer, which doesn't happen a lot. But I've known him for 10 years, too. We sponsor him and all that. And he's like, yeah, I'd love to be on your show. Take it easy. Don't worry about it. Here, he actually gave me some tips on how to relax before I talked on a show, because I told him I was nervous. And Smush Parker, who played for the Lakers, liked my post. And I'm like, so I DM back to Smush, and I go, is this really Smush Parker, the basketball player? He goes, yeah, it's really me. I go, hey, this might sound weird, but would you ever consider being a guest on my show? We could talk about your upcoming clinics that you have coming up in LA that I saw. He goes, yeah. He goes, give me about a week, and then let's hook up. And I was
nice.
I'm like, Smush Parker played for the Lakers with Kobe and Shaq. I'm like, okay.
I'm going to be talking to him on the show. That's crazy.
But then, so I go back. My wife's like, yeah, whatever. Smush Parker, never heard of him. Literally, yeah, Steve Stevens is cool. Yeah, this. So I invited Meryl Davis, who is a gold medal Olympic ice skater. And so when she said yes, I go, hey, I got an ice skater. She's like, who? I go, Meryl Davis. She goes, no, you didn't. I go, yeah. I go, why? She goes, she won the gold medal. Like, she just won Dancing with the Stars. I'm like, okay. Okay. But she still said yes.
That's the takeaway here, right? Yeah. You have to ask. You have to try. Those are the people. How else are you ever going to connect with people than if you didn't have a show? Without the show, you'd have no reason to contact them. You never know.
100%, bro. 100%. I think about that all the time.
You literally can reach out to anybody. You can have your Dream 100 board. Russell Brunson, Expert Secrets, talks about this. And there's somebody else who talks about it too. But your Dream 100 board, like, who are the 100 people that you admire, that you would read their books and go to their seminars and learn from? Who are they? Write them down, and then work your way into talking to them. And you're going to, we're like 6 degrees of separation between people, sometimes even less. A couple little connections here and there, and you've reached out to one of those 100 on your board. When we first started doing interviews, at the end of the show, we would ask every guest live while we were on the air, who do you think would be a great guest to have on the podcast?
Yeah.
And every single person would always tag or invite or whatever someone above them, someone they looked up to.
Yep.
It only takes a few of those before you start with interviewing the CEO of a particular company or a celebrity in this space, because you've connected with the ladder all the way up. Like, it doesn't take very much effort. It just requires you to ask.
The takeaways I got out of that, because I'm a complete 100% interview show, is I don't take it personal if they say yes or no. I always try to add in. I don't just do a boilerplate. Please be on my show. Here's how popular I am. I always try to find out something that they would want to promote, or a reason why they'd want to talk. So if, you got to do, if you're going to try and get some of those people, I'm trying to get this guest right now, and she was a runner-up on American Idol, but I don't want to talk about her experience on American Idol because she's talked about that enough. But I know she's a type 1 diabetic, so I want to talk about how she travels and tours while being a diabetic, and what are the concerns she has. So I always try and find why would they want to be on my show, and what can I do for them.
That's a huge takeaway, because it's and I always tell people the same thing. I go, our number one rule with Business Bros is to be of service to others, and it means coming from a value point, just like you're describing right there. Everybody has a life outside of that one profession that they do. So singers, yes, they love to sing. Yes, they love to be on stage, but they have a life outside of that. And that's like, if you're looking at a pie chart, 5% of their life is where they focus their attention on, which is their career. But there's that other 95% of their life, their family, their friends, their health, their religions, whatever it is. You can connect on that level.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful way to connect with people.
I think that's why, though, and just because, the other thing I would tell people, if you're trying to get a guest, I reached out to a guy named Max Martini. He's an actor. He was in Saving Private Ryan, 13 Hours, a whole bunch of stuff. And I just watched, he made a movie called Sergeant Will Gardner, and it was on Netflix. And they filmed part of it in Redondo Beach. I know the street they were on. It's literally 3 blocks away from me. So after watching the movie, and it was about a veteran coming back and struggling, and so I just reached out to him on Instagram. Said, hey, I just watched your movie, Sergeant Will Gardner. I wanted to say thanks. It was great seeing the good acting, and it was nice seeing Redondo Beach in it. That's it. I didn't ask him for I didn't say, hey, be a guest on my show, blah blah blah. And he replied, hey, thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate, all my fans. If you get a chance, feel free to promote it to your friends and all that. Because it was his movie. He didn't just act in it. It was his movie. And I said, hey, if you'd like it, I'd love to have you on as a guest on my podcast. And he goes, I'll be a guest on your podcast if I can talk about my movie. And I go, that's why I'd want you on my show in the first place. And he goes, great. And so we set it up because he had a need. He didn't have a need to necessarily promote my podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
but he wanted to reach more of an audience.
Right. So find out something that they want out of it. You know, and Gary says that quite a bit, right? Like, why would Gary Vee be a guest on my show? What is he going to get from me? Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. I mean, so I have to create some kind of value for him. So,
no, I wrote a parody for Gary Vee. You can find it on YouTube. It's a Eminem, the real Slim Shady. I rewrote it for the real Gary Vee. And I still haven't gotten his attention with it, or maybe he's seen it. I have no idea. But it's something that I like to do for fun. Every once in a while, I'll write a parody, do a funny looking music video. But it's just fun, right? And he didn't ask for it. He didn't like promote it or anything. But it was my way of saying, you know, thank you, because people like you who are saying do this, it will change your life. And then I did it, and it did change my life. You know, like, and it's just my way of saying thank you, and that's my tribute to Gary, and it's fun. It's definitely a fun gig. So yeah, you should check that out.
I definitely will. I met him before I started my podcast. I met him in February of 2018. I started my podcast in May of 2018. So So
after meeting him, was that even more of an inspiration for you to start it?
You want the truth?
Yeah.
So he did a giveaway. Remember his book Crushing It?
Yes.
So he did. He made K-Swiss. He used
the dirt.
No, the one before, the black and yellow, the Crushing It shoe.
Oh yes.
So he gave out 100 in L.A., 100 in Toronto. Well, he didn't give them out. He had to buy them, but he had 100 for L.A., 100 for Toronto, 100 for New York, and 100 for London. I think that's how it went. And so he was going to be at the Shoe Palace, which just got burned down 2 nights ago on Melrose.
Wow.
I'm watching I'm like, oh my God, that's where I met Gary Vee. And anyways, so you had to go there in the morning and get a raffle ticket. And then if your raffle ticket was one of the 100, you were going to get the opportunity to go in and buy the shoes. And if you wanted to, if you buy the shoes, then you can go in and do a quick meet and greet with Gary. And I'm like, sweet. And people were reselling the shoes, you know. And so LA was the first, and I was one of the 100. So I got the shoes, and you know, I paid retail for them $100 or whatever, 110. And then went and talked to Gary real quick, and it was an all day process, dude. It was like get there early to make sure you got the raffle ticket. And it was sit around and wait. And it was the last time I told myself it's the last time I'll ever do that, because it was a waste of my life. I got the shoes, I got to meet him, I got a picture with him, but it was probably a 6 to 7 hour day. By the time you wake up, you drive. I had to drive to downtown LA or West LA in the morning, wait in line for a raffle ticket, then wait in line, and of course it was delayed, and then Gary was late getting there, and blah, 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 blah. It was just hours, and I'm like, I will never effing do this. I want to be so busy that I don't have to do this again.
That's exactly how I think. I want to be so busy I don't have to do this.
Right.
My meet and greet is because he's going to want to hang out at some point, or I'm bringing something of value, and I have a direct appointment or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's I left literally going saying I'll never do this again. It's like, it was great. I'm glad I did it. I got the shoes. I wear them. I didn't resell them, but I was just like, I just wasted 6 to 7 hours for a pair of tennis shoes. It's like.
And the thing, some people spend a lot of time at the malls and going shopping store to store.
But I don't do that either. But so my wife, we can't have 2 of those in our household.
Yeah, that doesn't work out that way.
but yes, dude, it was literally like, and like I said, I didn't have the podcast at the time, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I did some photography, and that was in February when I met him, and I was like, I can't do that again. I want to be so busy that I don't have time to do that. And if you listen to Gary's content, he says, I want you to be so busy doing your side hustle that you don't have to listen to my side hustle.
Yeah, he says that all the time.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm there.
It's one thing to consume his content, it's another thing to put it into action. Do as I do, not as I say.
It's a balance between consuming and then creating.
Mm-hmm.
I've consumed a lot, and I still consume a lot, But now it's more specific. I'm learning how to interview, or I'm learning how to do SEO on my website, or I'm learning how to record better, or edit the audio better. So I'm learning specifics about the things, my hobby, as it were.
You're improving your skills.
Yeah, versus just listening to somebody tell me that I could do something great. I'm trying to get to that great point. I still listen to them once in a while, but not as much.
The top of the mountain looks cool. You still got to take the steps to get there.
Yeah. So, what's the best way for my listeners to find out what you got going on?
Absolutely. You can find me on social media at Business Bros Pod on any of the platforms out there, at Business Bros Pod, or you can become part of the Business Bros Network at businessbros.biz.
And you have your website, right?
Yep, www.businessbros.biz.
So where did CS first come from?
So CS First is where I actually host the podcast episodes.
Okay.
But I don't really use it as much lately. It's mostly just the spot where that stuff gets housed. And we started off with CS First, and then when we started the podcast, literally as I was filling out the iTunes application, we would come across boxes like, hey, it says we need an album cover. And I was like, James, come here, let's take a picture.
Exactly.
Snap a picture real quick. Okay, cool, there it is. We need a show name. He's like, I don't know. I was like, well, he goes, we're brothers and we're a business called Business Bros. Okay, cool. And so we, you know, again, you don't know what you don't know. We could have gone with the first podcast, whatever. But so we became Business Bros, and we needed to continue with the branding of the Business Bros. So CS First still works. You can still contact all their stuff there, but businessbros.biz is where you go to be part of the Business Bros Network.
Awesome. Well, hey man, I appreciate the time and reaching out to me. You know,
well, thank you for having me on your show. I had a lot of fun here.
Dude, it's so funny that when you replied back, I'm not a miner, but I'd like to be on your show. Do you even remember that?
Yeah.
So I go through. I wanted to get some models on my show, you know, and so I started going through Instagram and found this girl, and she has 800,000 followers. And I'm like, holy shit. And so I sent a message to her, just like I did a couple other people. And she's like a bikini model, you know, so whatever that means to you, it is what it is, right? And she says, yeah, I'd love to. I'd be on your show. That'd be great. You know, let me set it up. She's in Australia, and I'm like, all right. And then I started doing more research on her. She's 17.
Oh.
Like just turned 17, like in April. I think she was 16 when I first reached out to her without me knowing it. And I'm like, oh, man, I got to be careful. You know, 800,000. I'd still like to talk to her, but I won't.
Yeah. You know, I have seniors in high school, and this year it was funny because I had been telling them, like, oh, you guys need to be on TikTok. Like, I have a TikTok. I'm not very good at it, but we put content out there all the time. You need to do it. To your generation, you can totally do it. I had some kids that are like, no, that's for little kids or whatever. Towards the end of this year, I've had a couple of them that went from no TikTok to like 10,000 followers on TikTok. Yeah. And it's ridiculous because some of them have such creative skills that you know, one episode here, one post here, one post there, and that's it. Like they've got a following. But it's like anything else, man. Some of these girls, when they're good looking girls, they get followers super fast. And you just got to be careful with who they are, because you're right. It could be 16, 17 years old. And, you know, not that anything will happen, but the image of something that could happen could scar you.
Well, for me,
the court of public opinion.
For me, yeah. And all my shows are remote, and I haven't done it in person. I was going to do a Zoom because she's in Australia. But, it was just one of those things where you go, God, is it not worth it? You know, yeah, the exposure would be great, and I'd still like, but do I have to get a lawyer in Australia to approve the minor release form? You know what I mean?
It's a little crazy. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. You just don't know. You just don't know.
You want the 800,000
safe than sorry
eyeballs, but not for that.
Yeah, but not the lawsuit.
Yeah, for something I'm doing for free, I don't need that.
Exactly.
Give me the 100 million Joe Rogan money, maybe.
Then we'll talk.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I thought it was funny that you said that, because I'm like, how do I? That's why I put it out there on that forum. It's like, is it worth it? So
is it worth it? Yeah, nah, it's probably not worth it.
Probably not. I'll find somebody that's over 18.
Yeah, and they'll probably have the same 800,000 too.
I don't know. That's a lot of follow. But the thing I would want to ask her, Hernan, is like, how do you? I mean, that's a lot of responsibility. And it can go as quick as it came. You say one thing wrong, or get misconstrued the wrong way, and all of a sudden your followers are gone. So
I also want to know, like, what do you do to get that following? Like, what skill, what talent, what did you do to build that? And how are you using it to your favor? Because I mean, you can easily buy stuff nowadays. You can buy those followers and get yourself in a position where it looks really cool. But is it to your benefit? Does it actually help? I don't know.
I can tell you, I know for a fact my old next door neighbor was a 19-year-old kid when he moved in with his boyfriend, and they did makeup tutorials on him, and he was making six figures. For real, like no job. And so makeup companies every day would send boxes, and I mean dozens of boxes every day he'd get, because they'd want him to use the makeup in his videos. Mm-hmm. And Brian, his boyfriend, would record and edit the videos. They would take all day. I mean, like, it's a 1-minute Instagram video, and it was 8 to 10 hours between doing the actual shoot, seeing how it turned out, and doing the music, and you know how it is.
Yeah, no job, but a lot of work.
Yeah. And but it was like, I mean, so here's a 19-year-old kid making $100,000 plus a year, putting makeup on, and he only had 300,000 followers, 350. So
yeah, oh, we'll get there, Pete. We'll get there.
I'm not doing the makeup route. You let me know how that goes out, Hernan. Let me know what your wife thinks of it.
I don't know if there's any kind of makeup that can make this face look better.
I hear you, bro. I hear you. At this point, it's like, man,
exactly.
All right, but hey, I appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, me too, man. It was great. It was a great time.
Next time I come down to San Diego, I'll hit you up.
Definitely.
All right, do. Okay, bro. Thanks, man.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.